Hi, I'm Nick with Zingtree. This is the fifth video in our Zingtree Basics series, and today we'll be covering document, email, and link nodes. Over the course of the last two videos, we've been building out a sample returns process workflow for a fictional company called International Displays. We're going to wrap up our tree build today by incorporating the last three node types. We'll begin by learning about the document node and using it to generate a PDF with return information that will then get emailed to the customer using an email node. Lastly, we'll look at how to use a link node to set up a persistent button in our workflow that connects to our fictional company's knowledge base. Let's get started by opening up our example workflow. Click the Generate RMA node we set up the last time and choose Document Node as the type. A document node allows you to generate custom documents based on selections made in your workflow. Zingtree users have used document nodes to create things like tailored sales brochures, legal agreements, evaluations and assessments, and purchase orders, to name a few. You'll notice the layout of the document node is similar to the logic node. While logic nodes use logic to take your agents to specific places in a workflow, document nodes use logic to determine what content should be included in the document node. And just like a logic node, you can use simple or advanced logic statements. Finished documents can be displayed in the tree as HTML links or downloadable PDFs. If you decide to display a document in the tree, you can choose the option to download as a PDF or HTML file, which will include a button at the top of the screen to download the document. Let's set up the document node in our example workflow. In our scenario, the customer needs to print off the RMA and include it in their return package. Instead of having the agent view the RMA document in the tree, then download it, and then attach it to an email for the customer, we can use the method I'm going to show you to generate the document, attach it to an email, and then send the email to the customer automatically. To begin, I'm going to choose Make PDF File from the drop-down menu in the Document Type panel. Next, we need to set up the file URL variable. What this does is allow us to use a variable in the email node we set up later in this video as a link to the PDF the document node generates. In other words, this is how we attach our document to the email. Next, we'll need to set up the Go to Node destination. This is effectively an action button, and you should always set it up when using document nodes. In our flowchart, we see the next step after our document node is an email node. In Zingtree, let's use the green New Node button to select an email node and change the node title to Send Email. Now let's click back into our document node, and in the Go to Node dropdown, choose the Send Email node. Now we need to create the content of our document node. We'll do this using content nodes. For this example, we want our document to have a header that's always included, and then we need content for returns and exchange and returns and refund. We'll start by creating three new content nodes that aren't connected to anything using the green New Node button. Selecting the first new node, I'm going to give it the title RMA Header. This node is only being used for content, so we don't need to worry about any of the panels other than the text and media panel. We'll use the content editor to create our standard returns information. Let's start by typing in Return Merchandise Authorization. I'll highlight the text, then bold, center align, and increase the font size. Next, I'll type in our fictional company's address, which you'll see on the screen. Now we want to use information we collected at the beginning of the workflow in our RMA. The first field will be the customer's name. I'll start by typing in customer, and then use our first name and last name variables. On the next line, we'll do the same thing for the order number. Type in order number, colon, order number variable. Next is return product and the product variable. Return reason and the return reason variable. And lastly, RMA and the session variable. Quick note on the session variable. Each time your workflow is used, a unique session ID is generated. The session variable allows you to surface that ID in your workflow. In the case of our example, we want to use the session ID so that if there are any questions while processing the return, we can quickly go back and find this agent session. Now that we've built our header, let's build the returns and exchange content. Click the next new content node and title it Return Exchange RMA Content. Just like the last node, we're only concerned with the text and media panel. In the content editor, we'll type in process return and exchange for and the exchange for variable. See order number for mailing address, colon, order number variable. Now let's set up our last new content node. Clicking it will change the title to Return Refund RMA Content. In the text and media panel, we'll add the text, please return and refund. See order number variable for details. Okay, we have our content for our document node. Now let's get it all linked together. Returning to the Generate RMA node, we'll scroll down to the document content panel and add a logic expression. The order of our logic expressions will determine the order of our content in the document. You can always reorder your rules by using the drag and drop feature. We want the content from the header we made to appear first in our document, so that's going to be the first logic expression we set up. We also want this material to appear regardless of whether it's a return and exchange or a return and refund. In the variable dropdown, I'm going to choose the always include option and choose the RMA header as the node to display. Let's add another logic expression, and this time choose type as the variable, the equal sign as the operator, and then type return and exchange as the value. Remember that values need to be an exact match. For the node to display, we'll choose return/exchange RMA content. We'll add one more logic expression, choose type as the variable, equals as the operator, type in return and refund as the value, and choose return/refund RMA node content to display. Our document node is all set. The next step for us is to set up the email node we created earlier. Click on the Send Email node. Emails in Zingtree can be set to send automatically, or you can have an email template form that allows your agents to manually send emails. You can change between the two options by using the Send Method dropdown. By default, email nodes are set to send automatically. We also recommend using automatic email whenever possible because it helps cut back on user errors. In our example workflow, our agent has already collected the necessary customer information, so we can populate this in the email using variables and have it sent to the customer automatically, saving our agent's time. The next thing we'll do is set up where the email is going. Since we collected the customer's email address early in the workflow, we can use the email variable in the Send Email To field to automatically bring in the customer's unique email address. There's no need to BCC anyone for our example, so we'll skip over that, and in the sender's name field, we'll type in the name of our fictional company, International Displays. The Reply To field is where any replies to the initial email will go. For our example, we'll just type in returns@internationaldisplays.com. Our subject will be International Displays, return merchandise authorization. Now let's build out the body of our email. We'll start with our greeting. Dear first name variable, last name variable. Thank you for contacting International Displays. Please print out this return merchandise authorization and include it with your product variable, return. Now I'll add a signature line. We need to include the document we created in our email. We can do that by highlighting the return merchandise authorization text and then clicking the insert link button. In the URL, we'll use the URL variable from our document node, type in the hashtag RMA_URL hashtag. Next, we'll turn off the include session data toggle switch. The session data is a transcript of what steps in the workflow were taken and is automatically included in an email. In this case, we don't need it, so we'll turn the feature off. The last thing we need to finish our workflow is to create an ending node and link it to our email node. We'll start by using the green Add Node button and choosing a content node. Let's name it Processed in Call. Going back into our email node and scrolling to the bottom, let's choose the In Call node we just created as the Return To node. Now let's build out our final content node. Let's say our fictional company wants agents to log a transcript of all the questions and answers completed in the workflow at the end of each call. We can use templates to make this a simple process for the agents. In our content panel, I'll start with the text, RMA was generated and sent to the customer. Keep in mind, from the agent's perspective, they won't see the document node or the email node in the workflow, so it's helpful to let them know the process worked. Next, we want the agent to be able to copy all of the data from the session, so we use 3 templates that'll allow them to copy everything from a single button click. We'll start by inserting the copy area tags. Go to the templates icon in the advanced menu and choose Add Copy Area Tags. You'll see an opening and closing tag added to the content area. Anything that's typed between these 2 tags will be copied when we add our Copy to Clipboard button. Let's space them out, and then in the middle, add the All Data template by going to the template icon again, and this time choosing Insert All Data. Now, all of the data from the session can be copied. The last thing we'll do is add the Copy to Clipboard button below our Copy Area Closing tag. Find the template menu again and choose Add Copy to Clipboard button. Now all the agent has to do is click the button and the entire transcript from the session will be copied to their clipboard. Remember, in the Content Node video, we discussed success and failure points in your workflows and how that can be useful for your reporting. In our example workflow, if an agent has helped a customer get an RMA for a return, they have been successful, and we want to track that in our reporting. Let's go ahead and get our final node set up to be a success. On the Processed In Call node, open the final node session result panel and change the status from In Progress to Success. The last node for us to discuss is the link node. Link nodes allow you to link to external websites directly in your workflow and open in another browser tab. For our example, we've decided to make a link node a persistent button in our workflow that will allow our agents to access our Help Center whenever they need. We'll start by creating a new link node using the green Add Node button. We'll title this Link to Knowledge Base, parentheses, persistent button. The persistent button is a reminder to us, since this won't be connected to the actual workflow using the standard button connections. I've used the link to Zingtree's Help Center for our example, but feel free to use a link to any website you'd like. We'll leave the Open Link Directly toggle on to avoid any pop-up blockers, and also choose Open Link in a new tab so we don't lose any of our workflow history when opening the knowledge base link. To make this node a persistent button in the workflow, we'll open the Settings menu and choose Display. Under the persistent buttons, we'll type Knowledge Base as the label and then choose Link to Knowledge Base as the node. Click Update All Settings. And with that, we've built a fully functioning workflow. The only thing left to do is run through it and see how it works. I'll start by clicking the Previous Tree button. We'll click the checkbox next to the call disclosure and then click the Returns option. Now we'll put in information into the data entry fields. We can put whatever we want, but I will use an actual email here so I can preview the email the tree sends out. Let's validate that our logic is working correctly. Remember that the days since purchase can't be more than 30, so let's start by typing in 31 and click Continue. We're seeing the Return Denied screen, so that's what we want. Let's click the back button and change the days since purchase to 10. We'll click Continue again. This time we're seeing the Return/Refund screen. Let's click the Generate RMA button. We're taken directly to our final node, which is what we want. We should have received an email with a link to the RMA PDF document as well. Now let's restart the tree one more time, and this time take the Return and Exchange path. We can see the email come through again, and this time the document has the return and exchange information. This wraps up the tree building section of our basics course. In our next video, we'll look at customizing our trees. We'll see you there.